All right, hey, what's up, YouTube? And it is time for another abbreviated Malifaux battle report. That's right, Sean and I are back at it again, trying to learn our keywords, trying to learn how to play Malifaux one step at a time here, and we are here for the lunch game. It's going to be another 35 Soulstone game, and let's go over the scenarios. So we are looking at flank deployment, and the strategy is carve a path. So if you're not familiar with this strategy, it's you've got both players have two concealing markers that they're trying to push into the other opponent's side of the board and eventually enter to their deployment zone. So this is a game that is going to require a lot of interacting. The cool thing about these concealing strategy markers is that they will blow up any tokens or markers that stand in their way. So for that reason, people think maybe you don't take the marker heavy crews into this. That said, we'll get into crews in a minute, but we are on flank deployment, and our schemes are leave your mark, set the trap, vendetta, public demonstration, and in your face. And let's get into the crews. So Sean is taking basically the same crew he took last time. So he is going with Seamus 1 again, the copycat killer, a dead doxy, a dead dandy, Bete Noir, Madame Sibel, and the Grave Digger. So same crew as last time. This time I am going in with Colette, but I'm going in with Colette too, so Colette Smuggler. I have the 3 mechanical doves. I have Cassandra, Carlos, Angelica. I also have a performer and a mannequin. Obviously, the performer is where I am keeping my arcane reservoir or my magical training, and that leaves me with a piddly 1 soulstone cache. Now, those of you who are familiar with Colette 2, though, know that that's not the biggest issue in the world. Colette 2 prints a lot of soulstones, and going into this strategy and pool scheme, I knew I wanted to go Colette just because of all of the interacting that's going to be required, and it was just a question of picking 1 or 2. Decided to go 2 this time because I really like the ability to coordinate with the doves and actually start moving markers with Colette where she is not physically present. I think that's a huge bonus in this game. And for Sean's crew, I do think that they're a nice kind of tactical crew. They should be able to do a fair bit of fighting as well as interacting. So I think it's a decent crew. It's just going to come down to scheme selection. So for schemes, Sean is taking leave your mark and in your face. And this is interesting. He usually takes vendetta, and I'm actually appreciating that he did not take vendetta this time. Sometimes it's a little telegraphed who you're attacking with vendetta, and in your face is actually kind of nice against my Colette crew because he has a couple of nice targets in Carlos and Cassandra to hit. Carlos probably being the harder one to kill. But the nice thing about in your face is you don't have to select which one. It just has to be a model of 8 cost or more, and both of those models qualify for in your face. So I think that is fantastic. Leave your mark is where I thought maybe it's a little too easy for me to counter, because I do have Don't Mind Me on everybody, so if he tries to put the scheme marker towards the center of the board, it's very easy for me to kind of scoot around there and remove the marker. But I don't think it was a terrible choice. I just think that Colette, taking that against Colette is difficult because of that fact, because I can just worm my way back there and just remove it. In your face is actually, like I said, was a good choice. Now for me, I chose in your face and I chose set the trap. So as you know, Colette is very good at the whole scheming game, and set the trap is actually quite nice because I have Angelica there that can throw markers down at range, because the performer and Cassandra are going to want to do a lot of interacts anyways to hand out distracted, and it's not that difficult for me to do with this crew. In your face, maybe a little bit harder for me, but I figure I do have to at least try to kill some things in Sean's crew, and Sibel isn't the worst target I could have chosen. Sometimes Bête Noire can be very difficult to kill with her berry, but Sibel, especially with, I have a couple models that can hand out burning pretty easily, I figured maybe I would be able to wear her down and score that. So those are our crews and our scheme selection. So with that, we were ready to go. You can see my markers are there in the orange, and Sean's are there in the green. First turn really wasn't a whole lot to talk about. Sean actually spent a lot of this turn pushing that far marker there, the on the far side of your screen. He pushed that almost all the way, down into the corner eventually, but on the first turn, he got it all the way up to the center line, interacted with that a few times, and also interacted with the more central green marker as well. And I thought that was good because, some of the simpler crews like Seamus, where they're attacking, they're not really having to spend their AP, boosting one another as much. I thought it was a good idea to get those markers up and in place as quickly as you could. I kind of did the same thing on my side of the board. I got the orange marker on my far right there, just kind of playing soccer between Carlos and Angelica, and then the marker in the middle of the board. I didn't care to get either of them over the midline. I just wanted them to be accessible with the interacts pretty much as soon as the second turn started. So not much to report on the first turn. I did end up attacking Bête Noire at the end of the turn with one of Colette's attacks. It just did 1 damage, and she went ahead and buried. I didn't sweat it too much because I think this is interesting that the Gravedigger was charging down such a just hard flank of the board. That's kind of rough because it takes a lot of the advantage of having the corpse markers out from the Gravedigger, kind of away from Seamus or where he wants to operate. So that was a little difficult. So the second turn starts, and we're pushing these markers again. There's not really much to report on attacking here because most of the attacks are missing or they're just not doing much damage. I think Cassandra takes a little bit of damage this turn, but it wasn't much. Sibel may have taken a damage, and again, we're just pushing these markers around. Sean manages to get the far left token there all the way across the board, almost down towards the corner. I've sent a dove out to that side, so that's my weak side attack. I'm just going to send the dove out there to kind of play goalie, and so he can keep that marker on my side of the board, but I'm just going to make sure that he can't get it into my deployment zone. And again, this is where Colette 2 really shines, is just being able to have a dove out there that is so maneuverable, can get into position, and then for a 4, I can move that marker 4 inches back. So that's super nice. Towards the middle of the board is really where the scrum started, and we're getting a lot of attacks here trying to hit Cassandra, and that they're not happening. Now at this point, I'm thinking he took Vendetta against Cassandra, choosing the dead Doxy. That's what I'm thinking, just based on the positioning of the miniatures, and also the fact that Seamus he's playing really super cagey this game. He's been swapping around with the copycat killer, but it's all been out on the periphery. Seamus does not want to stand towards the middle of the board, and I think it might have to do with Seamus maybe being a little traumatized in the previous game where Karis 2 just kind of stood there and melted him down in place. So Sean's trying to play a little cagey, a little more tactical, which I think is a great idea. But right now it means that Seamus doesn't have the clearest plan on his activation. So Seamus will kind of bounce, and he'll eventually try to play goalie on that far marker. But turn 2 is really where the scrum starts, and Colette also has, so we have both markers over the midline, with the far right marker really being almost into the deployment zone by the end of turn 2. By the time we're looking into turn 3, and again, this is a really interesting and more tactical game. Not a lot of things are dying. In fact, I don't think anything died in this game, which is really interesting. It's been more sort of pushing around, maneuvering to get models in and out of combat. Colette is taking, I'm sorry, not Colette, but Cassandra is taking a bunch of distracted off of some attacks. Sibel got a red Joker flip against her and ended up hurting her pretty bad, but was able to heal up with the mannequin. That was super nice. And I thought when Sibel had her to half health, but I knew Sibel could not call Vendetta on that model, so I was like not sweating that, thinking maybe the Doxy was going to go, maybe do 1 damage and then call out Vendetta at that point. But no, that never happened. One thing that did happen, though, was Sean planted that scheme marker in the center of the board, and I was like, okay, I know how to handle this. So between Angelica moving Carlos back into the middle of the board, and then Carlos moving all the way towards the middle and removing that marker, there was some good points denial there. From there, it just kind of moved into a center scrum, like I said, with a couple of goalie games going around the outside. Seamus does end up playing up against that far right marker, but just shy of killing Angelica up the board there. He just kind of ran out of cards, didn't do quite enough damage. I thought he was going to just one-shot her. That would have been kind of rough, but she did survive on 1 and was able to push that into the deployment zone. And then we also had the second orange marker out. Towards the end of, I believe it was turn 2, I managed to get Set the Trap because Colette had dumped a marker kind of equidistant between the copycat killer and I believe it was the Doxy, and then we had another marker that was within 2 inches of Sibel, so I was able to score that and continue to score the strategy. So the rest of this game is not much left to describe. There's just a lot of fighting going on. Colette not really doing much damage with her 1-3-4 track, and I think that's the downside to her flourish is, especially against Rezzers with all the hard to wound, you're really only going to do 1 damage with that ability. However, it's a nice place, so it's nice to be able to place the model around where you want. Carlos and Cassandra pouring some distracted and burning out is really, really nice there. And again, I'm trying to work on Sibel. We get to turn 4, and we're running out of time here, and I just barely missed Sibel. Sean had kept a 13 in his hand for the entire round, which was super clutch on his part. I thought he was just playing with a bunch of low cards, but he did keep that 1-13 and managed to prevent me from killing Sibel, which denied me being able to reveal In Your Face. So the game is going to end there at 4-1 for Colette. However, I don't think that score is very reflective of how the game should have went. Ultimately, it's probably going to end 5-2, 5-3. So Sean is going to be doing better in the turn 5. He's probably going to kill either Cassandra or Carlos, maybe even both, and score the thing is, though, he would have to make sure that Seamus gets back in time to score the In Your Face, or I think Colette may have been within 3 of one of them, or maybe even both of them, and he would be able to score that. He's also probably going to be able to score another point off the strategy, and I'm already in his deployment zone with one of my markers, so I'm probably going to score 1 or 2 more points off of there. So with that's going to end this game. I think it was a really good, very tactical game. I think that maybe a little bit more planning on what Seamus is really going to do during his activation would be nice. And then, yeah, spend time with those corpse markers. Sibel not Sibel, Bete Noir needs them, Seamus needs them, and to send the Gravedigger hard down that one side, I think it really kind of limits a lot of the bonus that the crew should be enjoying from that. So with that, that's going to end our video. I want to thank everyone for watching. Thanks again, guys, and we'll catch you on the next.